Throughout history, the role of a leader has been adopted by the strongest of the group. An individual who has shown strength, courage, and an iron will. These leaders were either chosen by their group or formed their tribes by adopting members themselves. Civilization was built on the foundations of strong leadership and hardworking individuals who put their trust in their leaders. Great Britain has had many leaders who have held the title of king. Britain has had 62 reigning monarchs over the last 1,200 years. The modern royal family, however, can trace their lineage back to as far as 1066 with William the Conqueror. This long bloodline has been the backbone of the British monarchy and the burning centre of the Commonwealth. The House of Windsor was erected in 1917 during the rule of King George V. It was chosen as the official name of the family and replaced the historical name of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. King George V was the second son of Albert Edward VII, Prince of Wales, the eldest son of Queen Victoria. King George V rose to the throne when his father passed away on the 6th of May 1910 and was coronated the following year at Westminster Abbey on the 22nd of June 1911. He served the nation for 26 years and fathered 6 children. Prince Edward, Prince Albert, Prince Henry, Prince George, Princess Mary, and Prince John. George V died in 1936, and his son Edward VIII became king. However, Edward's kingship wouldn't last long. During the funeral procession of former King George V, whilst the coffin was laying at Westminster Hall, the cross surmounting the imperial state crown resting on the coffin fell and rolled into the surrounding gutter. Edward witnessed this and believed it to be a negative sign reflecting on his future as king, a title he wouldn't hold for long. Edward was in love with a woman who was not suitable for the king of the country. Wallis Simpson, an American socialite who had already been married and divorced prior to their relationship. It was hoped that the relationship would fizzle out. However, Edward's infatuation was far too strong to be broken by naysayers. Their relationship was kept a secret from the nation of Britain. However, it was picked up and reported by American press across the United States. British media avoided the topic for some time as a result of an agreement between the media and the government. Unfortunately, when Edward expressed his desire to marry Miss Simpson, the Church of England forbade it. No king would be allowed to be married to a divorcee with a living ex-husband. Wallis Simpson had, in fact, been married twice prior to her affairs with Edward. Edward was faced with a choice. In addition to rising tension between him, the government, and his controversial political views, he was faced with a dilemma of love. The king was given 2 options: put an end to his relationship with Wallis Simpson and find another suitor, or abdicate the throne and pursue his lover. Edward ultimately followed his heart and was abdicated in December 1936, leading the nation as king for 325 days and becoming the first monarch in British history to abdicate the throne. The crown was left to Edward's younger brother, Prince Albert.
But overseas, 3 kings occupied the British throne in a single year. King George departs, beloved after 25 years of rule, and walking behind his coffin in the sad procession is the new king, who is the beloved Prince of Wales. London acclaims the new king and crowds gather for the proclamation. God save the king! But even while the proclamation still rings, Edward stands beside Mr. and Mrs. Simpson in the windows of his apartments at St. James Palace. Soon he is to tell the world of the woman I love, and for her renounce the throne. Then comes the year's 3rd king, with his Scottish wife and their 2 children, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and the little Princess Elizabeth, who may one day be queen.
When Prince Albert rose to power, he adopted one of his other names, George, and became King George VI.
The Duke of York becomes king, his Duchess queen, and their two little daughters next in line for the throne. Britain rejoices again, and today, for the first time, radio brings a new king's coronation message to the world.
Never before has a newly crowned king been able to talk to all his peoples in their own homes on the day of his coronation. And the Queen and I will always keep in our hearts the inspiration of this day.
Thus royalty endures in the greatest empire ever known. To Elizabeth, the 36-year-old queen, to the Queen Mother Mary, and to her second son, now king, go the empire's love and devotion.
During the reign of Queen Victoria, she stated she never wanted a king to rule with the name Albert. She didn't want her own beloved Albert to be overshadowed by the reign of another. So, out of respect, Prince Albert adopted his new name. King George and his wife, Queen Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, had 2 children. 2 daughters, Princess Elizabeth II and Princess Margaret. King George VI potentially had one of the most stressful experiences as king. His first year as king saw the death of one and the abdication of another before his unexpected and unprepared shift to the spotlight. In September 1939, Great Britain and the British Empire declared war on Germany. This marked the start of World War II for Britain, and the first major global conflict of George VI's reign.
With him, he may break into Africa or into Asia, but it is with us, here in this island fortress, that he will have to reckon and settle in the end. We shall strive to resist him by land and sea. We shall be on his track wherever he goes. Our air power will continue to teach the German homeland that war is not all loot and triumph. We shall aid and stir the people of every conquered country to resistance and revolt. We shall break up and derange every effort which Hitler makes to systematize and consolidate his subjugation. He will find no peace, no rest, no halting place, no parley. And if driven to desperate hazards, he attempts the invasion of the British Isles, we shall not flinch from the supreme trial with the help of God.
King George served in the Royal Navy during the First World War. He had war experience, but now he was at the forefront of decision-making as the highest military power within the empire.
Then came the war. The king had a sad and weary task to perform. Wherever his people suffered, he came, and by his presence brought comfort and assurance in their ordeal.
Every man, woman and child played their role during the conflicts of World War II, even the royal family. Elizabeth II, the eldest daughter of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, served her country as a mechanic and driver, driving and repairing trucks and other vehicles. After the war had ended, the king developed a heavy smoking habit, which is believed to have caused him to develop lung cancer. He later died at the age of 56 in 1952. A short reign, one filled with stress, terror, and a struggle to keep the people believing. But the reign of King George VI brought the country through one of its toughest challenges in the history of the nation. With the death of King George, his successor, Elizabeth II, stepped into his shoes as the 40th monarch of England. When Elizabeth was born, she wasn't expected to become queen. In fact, she was third in line to the throne after Prince Edward and her father. But since Edward never had any legitimately known children and soon abdicated, Elizabeth's position moved closer to becoming queen. On the 2nd of June 1953, Princess Elizabeth of York was crowned Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. Queen Elizabeth II established the Commonwealth during her address to Canada on Dominion Day, also now referred to as Canada Day, in 1959. At the time, Canada was still a member of the British Empire. She said that the establishment of the Confederation of Canada on July 1, 1867 was the birth of the first independent country within the British Empire. So it also marks the beginning of that free association of independent states, which is now known as the Commonwealth of Nations. From her 21st birthday address from South Africa and through her entire reign, Queen Elizabeth II dedicated her life to serving the children of the Commonwealth.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone, unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
In 1952, the Queen assumed the role of head of a Commonwealth from her late father, King George VI. Her father was the first monarch to hold this title before his passing in 1952.
Long live the Queen! The rulers of our land meet to welcome the new Queen. There too, the Duke of Gloucester, her uncle, and the Lord Chancellor. The Premier and Mr. Attlee, leader of the opposition, are agreed in this great moment of our history. Her tour of the Commonwealth cancelled. The princess we knew as a girl and watched in the even growth of her stature comes back to meet her ministers as queen over the great lands that for 15 years acknowledged her father as head. Now the Princess Elizabeth we knew and loved returns amongst us as our queen. Before her plane, her government and leaders of the other parties receive her greeting. No queen had ever such counselors so predetermined to give of their best. No queen had ever such a people so devoted. Through the long years, she had grown amongst us, one of us. The little girl we knew has become Queen Elizabeth. The love we gave her has become allegiance. We knew her and we found her good, perhaps beyond our deserts. Then, as queen, she remembered those who had brought her swiftly and safely on her sad journey. She and her husband.
As the head of the Commonwealth to address us.
Prime Minister Muscat, Prime Minister May, Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen. Having on so many occasions been welcomed to opening ceremonies around the Commonwealth, It is a pleasure this time to welcome you to my own home. Here at Buckingham Palace in 1949, my father met the heads of government when they ratified the London Declaration, which created the Commonwealth as we know it today, then comprising just 8 nations.
She toured the nations of the Commonwealth and engaged with the cultures she was bringing together through this union. Queen Elizabeth gave birth to 4 children during her lifetime with her husband Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. The birth of Prince Charles came when Elizabeth was Princess Elizabeth on the 14th of November 1948. 2 years later, Princess Elizabeth gave birth to her first and only daughter, Princess Anne, on the 15th of August 1950. When Princess Elizabeth was crowned Queen, she proceeded to have 2 more children, Andrew and Edward. She would become the first reigning monarch to give birth in 100 years. Andrew was born on the 19th of February 1960, and Edward on the 10th of March 1964. Queen Elizabeth was the longest reigning monarch in British history, exceeding the previous record of her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, who was on the throne for an astonishing 65 years. She passed that record in 2018 and celebrated her Platinum Jubilee in 2022, celebrating 70 years on the throne. 70 years of dedicated service to the nation and Commonwealth realms.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
The Queen had been on the throne from the age of 25. Although she was not quite the youngest monarch to obtain the crown, she would be the longest reigning queen, ruling the country through 15 prime ministers and several global catastrophes. In 2021, 1 year before the celebration, the Queen's beloved husband, Prince Philip, passed away on the 9th of April 2021 during the global pandemic. After dedicating her life to her duty as Queen, Queen Elizabeth II passed away at her home in Balmoral Castle on the 8th of September 2022, leaving Prince Charles, who was next in line, king.
Her Royal Highness is the proud and happy mother of a prince. The salute is fired, and in the monarch's home lies the infant boy who will one day be king. All day on Sunday, people waited outside the palace, including phlegmatic pressmen with whom it is a point of honor to show no excitement. And all day there was no announcement. It was after 10 at night that those who waited, and they were very many, heard the tremendous news: a royal baby and a boy.
Charles had been living in the shadow of his mother his whole life, a shy but well-mannered boy with a great fascination and interest in learning.
And here I am, showing just how adaptable the sports commentator can be. All alone on in a deep-sea fishing boat with just my rod and line, the great unknown, a few helicopters and Aztec, but yes, I do believe I got a bite. I have a bite. I'm letting out a little slack now. Yes, taking up the strain. This is most exciting, ladies and gentlemen. I've never seen anything quite like it before. I think I got quite a large one here. It's really very large indeed.
He struggled to find a suitable wife during his early adult years, but eventually settled down and married Diana Spencer.
Hello, good morning. Well, the big day has arrived. In 4 hours' time, Charles Philip Arthur George Mountbatten Windsor marries Diana Frances Spencer, and Britain and the world will celebrate the wedding of the Prince and Princess of Wales. In this programme, we're going to capture every moment of the preparation, the procession, the service, and the celebrations.
Together, they had 2 children, Prince William and Prince Harry. In the 1970s, the then Prince Charles was known as one of the world's most eligible bachelors. It was a predestined part of his responsibility as heir to the throne to marry a suitable, aristocratic young woman and to continue the line of succession. It was believed that Diana would one day sit alongside her husband, Prince Charles, when he inherits the throne. Unfortunately, their relationship would be littered with domestic issues that ultimately led to a divorce in 1996.
The admission made the front pages and prompted this question.
Someone other than Diana could be Queen one day.
The Prince of Wales has made it clear that he has no intention of remarrying once his divorce comes through. In a statement, he was attempting to quash speculation that he might marry Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman he's admitted having an affair with. This followed last night's disclosure that the Queen had written to the Prince and Princess of Wales suggesting an early divorce. I think this morning's papers are the beginning of a vox pop process, which seems to me to be indicating that the British people would very reluctantly accept Mrs. Parker Bowles as a substitute for Diana as a future queen.
Today, Prince Charles was keeping a long distance from the cameras as he left Scotland after a weekend at Balmoral, together with his 2 sons. In the latest extract from Jonathan Dimbleby's biography in today's Sunday Times, it's claimed that he's had 3 separate affairs with Camilla Parker Bowles. She was today also keeping a low profile, spending the weekend with her husband at their home in Wiltshire.
3 calls within 3 weeks could all be captured on tape by radio hounds.
I mean, as I've said before, it is a deeply regrettable thing to happen. But it does happen, and unfortunately, in this case, it has happened. I mean, it's the last possible thing that I ever wanted to happen. I'm not a total idiot. I'm unaware of all these problems. And as I was saying before, this business of predicting what everybody would say, it's not something that I went into marriage, you know, with the intention of this happening.
Camilla Parker Bowles, whose relationship with the Prince of Wales was confirmed last year, is to divorce. Mrs. Parker Bowles and her husband issued a statement this morning saying they'd grown apart in recent years and had little of common interest left in their lives.
Now separated, Charles was free to pursue a new love, an old love. Unfortunately for him, the people's princess, who was loved by all, died in a fatal car accident in Paris. Charles had to tread carefully with his actions.
I believe what has happened is a tragic loss at a young age to someone who has shown great courage and determination in drawing attention to serious issues. For the next few days, the family and the nation must have time to come to terms with this immense sadness and loss.
I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death.
I couldn't believe I was there, really. Just to see all those people with all those books. Just sums it up. What a person she was.
Obviously, in the course of human affairs, the preparations for much older members of the family, of course, are very, very complete. I mean, everybody knows what they will do on big days and so forth, but this is not at all the case with younger members, and particularly with Diana. She was 36 years old. She was in the prime of life. She had everything. Of course, isn't it a cliche to say she had everything to live for, but certainly no one could have foreseen this, and I very much doubt if anybody is very clear about exactly how this situation will be handled.
Camilla Parker Bowles, whose relationship with the Prince of Wales was confirmed last year, is to divorce. Mrs. Parker Bowles and her husband issued a statement this morning saying they'd grown apart in recent years and had little of common interest left in their lives.
The Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles about to come out now. The Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles seen together in public quite clearly, coming down the steps of the Ritz after the party for the 50th birthday party for Camilla's sister. No secret about their relationship now, none possible at all. The photograph that people have waited so long, the picture that people have waited so long to see.
In 2005, Prince Charles married his old love, Camilla Parker Bowles, a controversial wedding, but one that marks a pivotal moment in the history of the royal family. It is said that Camilla introduced herself to a young Prince Charles and proclaimed, "My great-grandmother was the mistress of your great-great-grandfather, so how about it?" She was referring to her great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, who was allegedly the long-term mistress of Charles's great-great-grandfather, King Edward VII. A cheeky and humorous introduction that would mark the start of an epic romance.
Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles about to come out now.
The Prince of Wales and Mrs. Parker Bowles allowed themselves to be filmed going into the dinner. Although when asked to pose for the cameras, the Prince joked that he had a nervous twitch to keep moving generally.
They've waited long enough, but tonight they emerged as a couple soon to be wed. If you've been together this long, you've perhaps a right to demand a ring worth waiting for, and in this regard the royal family doesn't disappoint. Camilla sported a whopping diamond upon her finger, and she was clearly on a high.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed.
Can I see your ring?
You can have a question. You very happy, sir? You very happy?
Camilla and Charles have no children together. This leaves Prince William, the Prince of Wales, next in line for the throne, after his father, King Charles. Both King Charles and Prince William learned and observed a lot from their beloved mother and grandmother. The knowledge and wisdom bestowed upon them, handed down over several generations, has prepared them for the throne, a contrast so great from the initial coronation of their ancestor King George VI. Despite Prince Harry being the son of the current king and brother of the next in line, his position in the line of succession has been shifted, and he is now fifth in line. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have been shrouded in controversy after a series of questionable interviews and revealing details about the inner politics of the royal family.
How big a moment is this for the monarchy?
It's huge, really, I think so. I mean, a senior member of the royal family deciding to quit and go and live abroad is pretty serious. I mean, and this conference today, I mean, you know, a few years ago, Meghan Markle was working on a show called Deal or No Deal, and today she's doing Deal or No Deal with the Queen of England on a speakerphone. I find that unbelievable.
Yes, the Queen never likes news stories to be hanging around, because if they are hanging around, what we see is an increase of speculations.
Yeah, there are certainly things that Harry and Meghan kept to themselves. I think there were even friends, close friends of the couple, who were quite surprised by just how bad things got in terms of Meghan's mental health. And now that they've officially stepped away from their royal roles, of course we had that confirmation last month, they're finally free to do so. And this really, truly is the beginning of their next chapter.
Despite surrendering their royal titles and no longer being members of the royal family, Prince Harry still remains bound by blood. The long bloodline of kings, queens, princes, and princesses continues to flourish and expand. There are currently over 20 members of the royal family currently in line for succession, and it continues to expand with each new birth. Throughout history, the role of a leader has been adopted by the strongest of the group, but now the lineage and process of succession is determined by blood and relation to the ruler, with the knowledge of a leader being actively bestowed upon those in the vicinity of the monarch. The rules that future monarchs must adhere to are strict, set in place to ensure the development of a great leader, a leader who will dedicate themselves wholly to the people and their duties. This long bloodline has been the backbone of the British monarchy and the burning centre of the Commonwealth. As the longest-serving heir to the throne in British history, Charles has had plenty of time to build on his role as the Prince of Wales. He has focused on helping others and bettering the world around him for future generations as a leading voice in environmental causes, arts and culture, and architecture. He has observed and learned kingship. When crowned, King Charles will be the 41st monarch of Britain, a king who waited his entire life for the throne and is the oldest king in Britain's history. And one day, William will continue the cycle.